Alright, 8th graders, today we're talking about graphing parabolas again, and we're looking at what happens when we add in this bx piece, and we're really talking about finding the vertex. So everything that you've learned thus far is the same. So when we talk about properties of the graph, we're still looking at the fact that C is the y-intercept. We're looking at the fact that if A is greater than 0, the graph opens up. We're looking at if A is less than 0, the graph opens down. We're looking at the fact that the x value of the vertex is found by doing negative b over 2a. So when we're looking at a parabola, and let's say the vertex is here, the x value is negative b over 2a, and the y value, we fill our x value back into our original equation. So we fill the x into both of those x spots to get our y value. So we're going to practice that. If we look at this next question, it'll tell us that we're going to find the vertex and axis of symmetry of y equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 1. So again, to find the vertex, we're doing negative b over 2a, and then to find, that's for the x coordinate, to find the y coordinate, we fill in x to our original equation to find the y coordinate. So this is a, b, c. Negative b would be negative 8 over 2a, 2 times, a is 2, so negative 8 over 4 equals negative 2 for my x coordinate. And so then again, I fill this in to both of these x's. You may use a calculator when you do so. You have to make sure that negative 2 goes in parentheses with the squared, otherwise the squared just goes to the 2. It doesn't go to the negative, and the negative has to be squared with the 2 or you'll get the wrong answer. So 2 times negative 2 squared is 4, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16 minus 1, which gives us negative 9. So negative 2, negative 9 is my vertex. The axis of symmetry is just the x coordinate, so negative 2. And then it says to identify the domain and range. So if I were to sketch this, I would say, okay, my y-intercept is at -1. My axis of symmetry is at -2. And my vertex is at -2, -9. We're going to call that -9. And we know that because this is a positive, the graph opens up. So I know that this is going up this way, and then it's going to do the same thing on the other side because this is the axis of symmetry, so it's going up this way. It's not a well-drawn parabola, but you get the idea. So for domain and range, if you can graph your vertex and then your y-intercept, you can flip the y-intercept on the axis of symmetry and get your third point to draw your parabola. You can then identify the domain and the range. So in this case, the domain, every x value will get accounted for eventually here. So the domain is all real numbers. And the range, -9 is the least value. So y is greater than or equal to -9. So there's your vertex, your axis of symmetry, your domain, and your range. And we're going to do that for each of these. So on this first one, we identify the vertex, so -b, which would be -2 over 2a. 2 times 3 is 6. That's actually a +2, so we get 1/6 for our x value. And then we fill in, so 3 times 1/6 squared. Again, you have to have parentheses there. If you don't, it'll be incorrect. And once you type all of that in to your calculator, you get hold on, I think my answers are wrong here. Oh, this should be 1/3. There we go. When we reduce, it gets to be 1/3, not 1/6. So when I fill in 3 times 1/3 squared minus 2 times 1/3, I get -1/3 for my y value. So this is my vertex. Axis of symmetry, again, is 1/3 because it's the same as the x value of the vertex. And then the domain, this is opening up because there's a +3 here, so the domain is all real numbers. And so if I know that this parabola is opening up and the vertex is at 1/3 -1/3, then y has to be greater than or equal to -1/3. So if it opens up, you're going to have a minimum, and y is going to be greater than that vertex. If it opens down, you're going to have a maximum, and y is going to be less than. So on this next one, we have to find our vertex, so we do -b, which is -6, over 2a, a is 1, so over 2, So for my vertex, I have -3. I fill that -3 in here. I get 9 plus -18 plus 5, which gives me -4. The axis of symmetry is the same as my x value of my vertex. The domain is going to be all real numbers, and the range, this is going to have a minimum because it opens up, and the vertex is at -3, -4, so it's down 4, so y is greater than or equal to -4. And on the last one, this one now opens down because we have a -1/2 for our a value. So -b would be -7 over 2 times -1/2, which is -1. So -7 over -1 is 7. So our vertex is 7. -1/2 of 49 is going to give us a decimal. We add 49 to that, we subtract 4. I believe we get 20.5. So again, the domain is all real numbers. But the range this time is y is less than or equal to 20.5. The minimum value and the maximum value of a parabola is just the vertex. And we find it by doing -b over 2a, and then fill in x to find y. So ax2+bx+c, this is our a, this is our b, and then whatever this answer is, we fill back in here and here, and that gives us our y value that goes here. So it's all related. Finding the minimum and maximum values, tell whether the function f of x equals -4x² minus 24x minus 19 has a minimum or a maximum, then find it. So again, if we're imagining our parabola, this parabola, all we do is we look here, opens down. So the vertex on this parabola is going to be a maximum. And to find the maximum, we do -b over 2a. So in this case, we get 24 over 2 times -4 is -8, which gives us -3. And we fill in -3. So -4 times 9 minus 24 times -3 minus 19. So we get -36 minus, actually plus, because this is a negative times negative, 72 minus 19. Which is 17, I believe. So it's a maximum at -3, 17. Tell whether the function has a minimum or maximum and find the value. So again, here we have our vertex. This is a parabola that opens up, so we have a minimum. Here we have a parabola that opens down because it's negative, so we have a maximum. And negative b over 2a gives us a half. Negative b over 2a gives us negative 3 divided by negative 1/2, which gives us 6. And we fill the 1/2 back in, so 8 times 1/4 minus 8 times 1/2 plus 6 gives us 2 minus 4 plus 6. So we get 1/2 4. And then over here we fill this back in. So we get negative 1/4 times 6 squared is 36. Plus 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1. So we get negative 9 plus 18 plus 1, which gives us 10. So our vertex is at 6, 10. And it's a maximum, and this one's a minimum. On this last section, 3 through 6, go ahead and graph 3 and 4, describe the domain of the range, and then tell minimum or maximum and find the value. And then number 7, you can also try. It's a word problem, but go ahead and give that your best shot. We'll talk about those tomorrow. Have a great night.